A warm welcome. My name is Felicity Ezewike. The 15th BRICS Summit opens today in Johannesburg, and observers say the event offers South Africa an opportunity to exercise leadership in the BRICS efforts to reform the arrangements for global economic governance and in supporting sustainable and inclusive development in Africa and the Global South. Made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the group has overtaken G7's global GDP contribution, accounting for almost one-third of worldwide economic activity this year. Its contribution came to 31.5% of the world's GDP against 30.7% of the G7. The BRICS are considered the current major emerging power. Reuters reports that some 40 nations have shown interest in joining. 22 countries so far have formally asked to join. It is believed that this will be at the heart of the debates at the summit, as the potential addition of members would inherently change the dynamics of the group. The theme for this year is BRICS in Africa. There is an undisguised appetite for the continent's natural resources and opportunities for investment and transfer of technology. How can Africa get the most from this partnership that would assure mutually accelerated growth, sustainable development, and inclusive multilateralism? My guest today was supposed to be Professor Anil Soklal, Ambassador at Large Asia and BRICS at the Department of International Relations and Cooperation at the University of Zululand. But he is unable to join us. He hasn't responded to our request. He is undoubtedly tied with activities at the BRICS at the moment. We apologize for not being able to get him on. But we're lucky to have a renowned journalist. I'm talking about Mr. Matsanga, David Matsanga. He is a lawyer and conflict resolution expert. I've had conversations with him over time, and I have not been disappointed. He's kindly agreed to stepping for this conversation. Thank you very much, Mr. Matsanga.
Thank you very much, my dear sister. All the time, anything for Africa, call me. I'm ready for it.
We're happy to know. Let's talk about this BRICS. There's been so much anticipation for this particular summit. Is it because it is in Africa? And I want you to talk about that anticipation. And I also want you to talk about, if you can, the BRICS and Africa theme.
First of all, it is not because it's in Africa. It is because it's changing the dynamics of how the American hegemony has failed and has been conquered the world for since the Second World War. And now, since the Second World War, nothing has ever popped up that could shake the dollar. So the dynamics are very clear. It is changing the dynamics of economies across the globe, changing the dynamics of trading across the globe, and above all, it is bringing up a lot of nationalism in several countries across third world countries and in Africa. Everybody is saying, what else can we do? How can we get an alternative? How can we trade without a lot of barriers, a lot of, exchange rate is done from New York, everything is done from America. You have to look for $1 in order to buy your paraffin, to import your sugar. This is the best chance for Africa and for the rest of the world to balance all the economic activities of the world. So,
Mr. Matsanga, I'm going to go very easy on you, considering the fact that we just got you to talk about this at the moment. I know you're very vast, but I want to find out, BRICS, everybody's talking about it. Everybody wants to join. But mostly what is being talked about is the potential that it has. Yes, it has done some things, but there's still a lot more that it is yet to do. So what are people buying into? Is it the potential that BRICS has, or it is just to spite the West and create something different?
Both. It is going to change both. People don't like the American hegemony. It is true. People have been silent, but they never told you. Now they have come out that they have an alternative. You can see how many countries in the world are running to go and get this thing quickly to BRICS, sign for it. Two, it is also going to be, is very, very good for the dynamics, for the growth of third world countries, like in the case of our African nations. It is the people have been wanting to get away from where you are put on sanctions because of a simple thing, where sanctions become the target, they become the stone used to destroy everything that you have been with for a long time since independence. You know very well, every mess on American, they say we shall not trade with you in a dollar. So it is a change. That's why people are apprehensive. People not apprehensive. People are, I don't know what to describe. This is a landmark historical event for the people of Africa. And that's why they went further to block it. You saw America told the ICC that issue that warrant, use that warrant of arrest so that Mr. Putin does not come, because it would be a big miracle if Putin arrived. But you see, it was just a scaremongering tactic, because all warrants of arrest are issued, but people still travel, and heads of state have immunity. So it is a great opportunity for Africa, a great opportunity for the people of the third world to have alternatives on which way to trade and how to trade.
Okay, well, there's this saying that when something is shiny, everybody wants to, look at their face in it. 40 countries have shown interest. 22 have formally applied to join. And then you look at the name BRICS. It's an acronym from Brazil, Russia, and then you have India, China, and South Africa. So what happens when all these other countries are coming? What is the concern? We know that China is all welcoming. Russia is also, but India is on the fence, and Brazil is not so open about having more people. Do you expect that that conversation will come up?
Yeah, that conversation is going also to come up, and it could derail the formation of a single objective, or it could derail the original objective of BRICS. But as countries come in and expansion is necessary, you have to bring in countries. How would you trade alone? So most of these countries will be accepted, but whether they will change the name from BRICS to another currency, we don't know. Whether they will change the name, because we don't want to create another UN where some countries have superpowers and others have no powers. So look at the UN. We don't want to create a BRICS, which is like a UN, that because South Africa, China, Russia, India are the people who founded this, therefore they will be permanent members with powers to veto. No, it has to change, and it is going to change very drastically, such that you accommodate countries like Saudi Arabia, which is on the periphery waiting, Iran, Indonesia. The president of Indonesia has flown in there, the biggest economy in the world, with the highest population in the world, is flown in there, second to China and India. And they had Singapore. All these countries are eager because they have had a lot of under slavery, of economic slavery, where if you don't have the dollar, you can't import, you can't export, you can't do things, you send your goods, but you must bring in the dollar. So there is an alternative now for people to be able to see what they should do.
They're talking about the dollar and its seeming dominance and the conversation about creating a currency. Initially, earlier this year, President Cyril Ramaphosa did say that that will be discussed. But just before the event, officials said that that has been taken off the table. So what becomes of that push to get alternative to the dollar if the conversation around de-dollarization or a currency for BRICS will not be discussed?
President Ramaphosa has been an off and on, a waffler. He had waffled on this one, and I'm happy. I am a friend of Ramaphosa, but I tell him off. I have never had good words. When he makes a mistake, I still tell him off. When he does something good, I still tell him. He waffled on. He was almost putting off this conference. He said he will allow Putin to come in. Then he will say he doesn't want Putin. He will arrest Putin. Then he said he's not going to arrest Putin. He has been waffling and confusing the entire BRICS, and which is very, very dangerous. But on the question of the dollar, there is no alternative. You have got to say, you are bringing out a currency, and we are going to already they have put a stock bond in the international bank, and they named even the president of the bank. She was named. She's there. There's already a bank operating under BRICS. So it is going to start giving out shares. It is going to start giving out loans. It is going to trade on international markets. So there is no way you can hide the question that this has become as a competitor for a dollar. That you can't.
I don't know if this question is naive or rather lame, but it's just been buzzing in my head. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you. Africa talks about the ECO. We've not made headway with that. A unified currency for Africa. That conversation is still in the box. And now we're talking about another currency. BRICS is not an African conglomerate. It is made up of other parts of the continent. So how will a currency for BRICS work?
Let me tell you, when you are defending Africa, you defend with one hand, while the other one, you have to defend yourself. And that is what has happened in Africa. Defending Africa and working and talking about African affairs, my dear sister, you must have strong hands. As you defend Africa, there is another one pulling you back. They have talked about this currency for a long time. We've talked about the African passport. Where is it? Some of us took photographs, and they took the passport, our photographs, information, data, no passport up to today. So I think we have been drawn to focus on foreign brought concepts. And those concepts are the ones that we even welcome. It should not even be lingering in your head. You have seen yourself, you have gone to some places in Africa where people serve the white person, then you're serving you, my sister from Nigeria. Then he comes, can I help you also? You know, we have those concepts as Africans. When we have not taken our things seriously, we should have got our own currency and entered these BRICS with a currency that we put on table. But when you look at Africa, the common market, common currency, in fact, flying from here to Nigeria, I will go through 33 currencies. If I'm about 33 currencies, which don't even import in a single fuel. It can't bring one liter of fuel from anywhere. So why don't we kill these currencies and bring about one common currency for Africa? We have now gone into another thing which we are running very fast. You see, if you go to Johannesburg, you see how many leaders of Africa are jetting in with airplanes, you know, and they want to be there to see, but none of them. African Court of Justice, look at that. It is just an elephant, a project. We can't even sentence a cat in African Court of Justice. We have a problem on the continent. And that is why this continent must wake up, stand up, and say enough is enough. But remember, when you are fighting for Africa, my sister, One hand is fighting, defending Africa, while the others are pulling you back.
I honestly don't know how to react to that, because whether we like it or not, all we've got is Africa, and we must continue to talk about it, even if it seems a bit confusing sometimes. Let's look optimistically ahead. Now, South Africa, we will still, if we have time, we'll still talk about the events that is ongoing at the moment. But I just want to pick your brains on the expectations. South African officials want BRICS to become a champion of the developing world, and have also invited leaders from 49 African countries and 11 heads of states of various regional multilateral groupings, such as Asian. But there is a problem here. Not all of them are members. We only have South Africa as an African country in the BRICS. So without membership, how can they really contribute, even with their attendance at this event?
The agenda has, I've looked at the agenda, it has been adjusted. That it is going to be a free mic for all. Time is coming for all the leaders who are interested in making their presentations. It's a showcase. South Africa wants to show Africa that they are able to bring Africa together. 49 countries is not a joke. And that is very good for South Africa's foreign policy and foreign engagement and international relations. But the problem lies in implementation. Most of these things died during the stages of implementation. If you look at all the things that have happened in whole Africa, some of the resolutions are lying in the United Nations General Assembly. Nobody has followed them. The question of Cameroon, Abyssinia, resolution 1608.
But for us to have any hope of implementation, we have to at least be part of the decision-making process. And that's the crux of my question. These African countries are not members of BRICS. They were invited guests, except I'm wrong. So if they're invited guests and you make contributions, you make submissions, which sounds very great in itself, but it cannot work in isolation. There has to be some sort of agreement. So when the conversation around membership, I think this will bring us to talking about what is going to be happening there today. So membership, for instance, do you expect that there will be headway? Because two countries are not really into having more members, so that they don't water down whatever it is their strength is. And two others are very welcoming of other nations to the BRICS. So that's one conversation that's going to be there. And then you invited African leaders, they're going to talk about things. Implementation, yes, but without membership, what can they do?
First of all, the discussion on implementation stages. You can stage manage this piece by piece, block by block. If you come in and say, this is how we want people to come in, that's why you see India and Brazil are hesitant. But China and Russia are not hesitant. Because the two countries in there, especially India, still has that British imperial English courtesy of the British of thinking, let's think fast, let's look at what are the consequences of so many of these people coming. Shall we lose market? No, there is no loss of market. You know, those days everybody used to go to India for cancer, but everybody now has turned in their own countries. They have built cancer homes. People are not flying there anymore. These are things that are changing. So this is going to happen. But mark you, as we put up the BRICS, as we prepare for all this, America is not also sleeping. America will not want a dollar to be lost. America is going to fight us. America will fight the BRICS, because more so when Russia is involved and China are involved, they will bring all types of and I'm not shocked if out of the 54, the other countries, the 6 countries that did, or 5, yes, 6 countries that did not turn up of Africa, they must have been threatened by America. that if you go there, we shall not be with you. So they also face problems. But all in all, there will be obstacles, challenges, which we must overcome on this journey. One of the challenges is how do you sell the idea to incorporate everybody? An idea you started, one or five of you now must bring in so many people, including Iran, including enemies are coming in here, Saudi Arabia and Iran. China has been doing what we call red rose diplomacy in the Gulf states. You know that China, as Russia and America were fighting, China was busy doing diplomacy, making sure that Saudi Arabia talks to Iran. Iran talks to Syria. Saudi Arabia talks to Syria and Lebanon. All these people, they have been doing something behind the scenes, and they have left the Western world very embarrassed, naked.
Okay, so I'm going to. I was going to bring up the situation in Niger because there were projections that that will be part of the conversation at the BRICS. But because we're going to talk about military coup in the second half of this conversation, I'm going to let that rest and rather ask you. You brought that up at the beginning of this conversation, the controversy around the attendance of the Russian President, Vladimir Putin. That has been resolved. I don't know if he has arrived now. Lavrov is supposed to represent the president while he attends virtually. Now that that conversation has been put to rest, what is being talked about? Russia is attending. So what should be the conversation around Russia's involvement and Russia's attendance and how South Africa has responded so far?
First of all, let me tell you, I told Ramaphosa, that's why I'm not attending that summit. I am one of the few people who had written a paper for Ramaphosa not to worry about ICC. ICC is an empty shell. It is nothing. It's a backing door. Americans know where Russian president is. They know where his plane is. They can take his plane if they want. But there is nobody, and don't be confused, my sister, that there is any country here that can intercept the president of Russia. Because you will bring a third world war instantly. That's why Americans always want to use other people as a proxy to go and stop Britain. But they cannot go directly. And this war of Ukraine, the more you hear about it, is fizzling. Very soon, it will end in what we call a frozen conflict, a frozen war. Everybody will go, and Russia will annex those territories. It will end. Because none of the people today, either Russia or America, can cross the Rubicon of sending a nuclear weapon either side. All of them fear death. All of them don't want.
In the interest of time, I've been told by the director that we have about 2 minutes left. So I want you to use that 2 minutes and talk about what would satisfy you as resolutions from the 2-day event that is happening in South Africa from the BRICS summit. What kind of resolution would you expect to see at the end that would show seriousness as to getting more people, more countries involved?
All those countries present on the table in South Africa cancel the date. Cancel date. Cancel it. Russia, China, cancel the date and start afresh. The whole world will be behind you. The whole world will be behind you, because what is killing Africa are debts. All these countries are dying of debts. Debts, repayments. We have the money, but we are repaying huge amounts of money going out. So cancel the debt. And if that resolution comes and all these countries said, we want to start a new world order, and that world order is no date. Let's start afresh. Everybody will join the BRICS. But another thing that we expect coming out of South Africa, which we want, is which direction you take us? Are we going to fall in Indian Ocean, or shall we cross over to India itself in New Delhi? That's it.
All right, let's see what happens at the end of the summit. I'm sure we will be circling back to you to hear your thoughts as to whatever they decide at the end of the day. Thank you very much, Masanga.